Hey everybody, in this video in the AWS Terraform series, what we're going to do is continue building out the infrastructure. So far we've just seen the VPC being built. That was rather simple, not too powerful. You probably would say, why can't I just build it, create my VPC just using the console? It's probably easier, and you might be right, but if you have to reproduce this many times, you're going to see the power comes in when we're creating other types of resources and creating the full stack. And then you're going to see the savings in time. So our next step is we're going to create a resource. And here you can see you can use this. This will help, right? It gives you the list of things you can build. You can build quite a bit. Tons of stuff in here. What we're going to do is we're going to build a AWS underscore, and then we're going to go, you can build an S3 bucket, but we're going to build a subnet because that's our next step. VPC, then build a subnet. Let's give it a name. This will be the public subnet. All right, this is our public subnet. And as you know, we did create variables. So we're going to do a for each. And what this allows us to do is to not define each one in here, and makes it more that all we have to do once we have this built, this main, all we have to do is change the variables. We want to add a subnet, just add it in there. So the for each will do var.public prefix. So that is a variable that was defined. In our variables.tf file. So we're going to assign the availability zone ID. Now we're using the zone ID, and the reason we're using that is because we want to make sure it's the same. We're not using the availability zone name, which may be different. So each dot value, and this is going to reference our variable that we built, and we called it AZ. So that's going to be our AZ. Availability, now our CIDR block, right? We've got to define that. CIDR block. And that's going to be each dot value. So this is our for each. So each dot value, it's going to go through each one of those values, and what we'll do is here we call that CIDR. Okay, so we got the CIDR block. VPC ID equals AWS dot underscore VPC. So we're going to reference the VPC that we create up there. So it doesn't exist right now. So that's the thing, right? It knows here main VPC, and then dot ID, because we need the VPC ID. And the next thing we're going to do, these are public, so we're going to map public IP on launch is going to equal true here. Whoops. Let's make sure true. Okay, there we go. And then we'll go to our tags. So we'll define our tags. Name, and this is going to equal, this is going to be $, and then we put our brackets var.base name. That's what we're going to use most of the time here. We want to use that base name that we defined. So this is for reusability of this code. Public, and then we're going to use another value, and we're going to do it each dot value. Whoa. Each dot value, and what we're going to do is use that AZ, put that on, as part of the tag. So there you go. And what do we have here that is not right? Because I see, you can see right here, these little squiggly lines at the end. Let's just try to figure out what's going on there. Did I? Oh, I left open, yeah, right there. There you go. So watch out for syntax, but it tells you if something's wrong. So there, now what we have is the AWS subnet. Now let's Control S to save it. And what we can do is we can go down here and we can do a Terraform plan. So what we should see is there's 3 to add, right? So it's going to tell us right now, it's going to create a VPC. It's going to create a, well, this one says, I'm going to create a public subnet. That's my name. It's going to create another one, and it's going to create a VPC. Now, it has to create this VPC first, and Terraform is smart enough to know that. There is also, you could put depends on, or I forget exactly what it's called in Terraform. We can look that up. But it will automatically does know to create the VPC first, and then tie it to the, and then create the subnets and tie those to VPCs. So let's run through this. Just let's do a Terraform apply. Whoops. Terraform apply. I'm going to say yes. And what we should see is it's creating. And there's the prod VPC already. Go to subnets. There you see 2 new subnets. And they're named right here. And you can see the prod public US East 1, AZ 1. And US East 1, AZ 2. So, and they're both tied to B30F, which is our VPC that was just created. B30F. There you go. So it's created the VPC and it's created subnets. And these should be public subnets, so they should be routable. Well, there's no IGW, right? So right now we don't have an internet gateway. We will. That's going to be part of this. But so this is where it starts to become more valuable, because you're clicking around. You can click around and create all this, but if you're going to do this a bunch of times, you're going to forget. So here we go. Let's just keep going on this. So we've created the public subnet. The next step will be our private subnet, and then our private data subnet. So very similar. In fact, let's just copy this. Right? We'll just copy this because it's going to be pretty similar. So I'm going to copy it. I'm actually going to copy it twice. So it is still an AWS subnet. This time it's going to be, though, a private, and we're going to call this app subnet. And again, so this, the variable that it uses, is going to be different too. So private app prefix. Availability zone ID, that's right, that's and that's not right. So that's going to be false here because we're not going to, this is not a public subnet. And here we're going to do, instead of public, we want to call these private app. Private app. Okay, that looks good. Yes. Okay, so now we have our public subnet, private app subnet, and we need our data subnet. So this will be called private data. Oops, let's not do it like that. Data subnet, and again down here, I'm going to change this to private. I'm going to grab that right there. CIDR block looks right, VPC ID is right, and that is not right. So let's fix that, and let's change this. So there, once we get this done, this should be private data. Okay, so we named it private data, perfect. So now that we have that done, we've got all of our subnets created, right? Did we destroy these other subnets? Let's do a Terraform plan. Let's save this, right? We're going to Control S to save. We're going to go back down here, and we're just going to do a Terraform plan. So right now we already have 2 of these. So here's what it does. It's just going to add 4 more. And what is it going to add? It's going to add a private data subnet, and 2 private app subnets. So 2 of those, right? 21, there you see 30, 10, 230, 10, 231. So that looks good. That looks real good. So we can just build that out. We can just, let's do a Terraform apply, and then we're going to just take all this down. And that's it. It's added it just like that. So there you go. Look at all these wonderful subnets here. Well, let's take a look quickly. So we have Chris.org prod, right? That's our naming convention, our base name. Private app, US East 1, US East 1. So public, private data, private app. So we've got 2 in each, 1 in each AZ, and you can see 20, 21, 30, 31, and 10 and 11. And there's the available addresses. There's the availability zone 1 and 2. So we have been able to bring up all of our subnets. I'm going to destroy those. And yes, and we will take those out. So there it goes, destroy complete. Refresh, and we're back to what we had before. So that is the subnet building in Terraform. That's how we're going to build our subnets, and I like this design because it's modular. It allows us to use a for each loop here, and take those variables that we created here and put any number of subnets in here, and it will just go right through there. We'll use that for each loop and just go through and define each one. Oh, I did make a error there. We haven't used this index yet. We will later, but not really a problem yet. So yeah, so that is where we are. We have the subnets created. Next we'll create some elastic IPs for our NAT gateway and start building out the NAT gateway and assigning it to the private app subnets. All right, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.